And I'm so curious, when you were a kid, did you kind of what were your plans for your life? Like, what did you envision or what did you wanna be?
Oh, wow. My childhood is sort of I had no idea what I was going to be as a child. At one point when I was a preteen, I thought I wanted to be a musician. You know, the Beatles had come out, and Paul and Simon and Garfunkel were out, and there were so many amazing groups out in Buffalo, Springfield, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I could go on. I thought that was what I was going to be, in part because um, I don't talk about this too often, but I was a homeless runaway at age 13. The home life I had gone to by the time I dropped out of school with a GED in the 10th grade, I missed most of the ninth grade because I was homeless. I was on the street, and I had already gone to 16 schools at that point. And so my whole life was, "What's your name? Just call me new kid because by the time I'm gone, you won't remember anyway." And so I really had my ambition in life was just to survive for a long time. I left home for good when I was 15, never went back again. That was it. So I've been pretty much supporting myself since I was a young teenager. And so childhood was really, gee, I don't know what I want to be because I was just worried about how I was going to get through the day, through the week, whatever. Um, when I went to college, which was an amazing experience to begin with that I never expected and never planned. I was like a dry sponge. I wanted to soak, once I got over the fear, no, no, not the fear, absolute bone chilling terror of learning and failing to learn, of failure. And I started realizing that I started building study school, study habits and skills and tools. I loved it. I couldn't get enough. I wound up with multiple degrees because I couldn't decide what I wanted to study. I wanted to study it all. I was just enthralled with the process. So it took a while for me to make that transition.
I was gonna say, you are telling your story of kind of being a teenager and being homeless and being a runaway and really and just in this place of survival, which doesn't leave a lot of room for much else. It's kind of
Not a
like,
lot of room for dreams. Not a
yeah,
lot of room.
no, no,
Yeah.
no. It's like, how do I
Um,
get food? How do I find a safe place to like? How do I find a safe place to sleep? All of this stuff.
mhm.
Envisioning even going to college seems like this out of reach dream. How did you even make that a possibility?
Well, you asked earlier about a miracle, and it's one of the few times that I believe that that was one of the few miracles that kind of started. I had because I was young and idiotic and had no idea what I was doing. I wound up getting married very early, like 19, and I was at the time driving produce trucks. In other words, these really big, giant trucks to deliver from a warehouse to deliver produce to hospitals and hotels and restaurants and things like that. You know, 5 crates of lettuce and 4 crates of tomatoes and that kind of stuff. Really heavy stuff, and I'm not a really big man. But I was working 12, 14-hour days, 6 days a week, and I was exhausted all the time. And at one point in time, we were going to a church in Tucson, Arizona, my wife and I, and my wife was already pregnant. I already was a father. So I was trying to decide I needed to do something better than the truck driving to make a living, where I could have a little bit of energy when I got home. And so we actually went to prayer that day. And in the prayer, and I'm simply asking, Lord, is it okay? You know, the church is telling me I'm not allowed to send my wife to work because I'm supposed to provide for the family, which is cool. But can I send her to work just for a couple of months so I can go take enough time off where I can actually go look for another job? Because you can't go find another job when you're working 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. It's sort of a, once the good news is you got the job, the bad news is it's the last job you'll ever have. So we went to prayer, and I kid you not, I'm in prayer, and it's one of the maybe 3 times in my entire life, I felt like I received a word from the Lord, which is not something I say very lightly because I think a lot of people who do are oftentimes reading their own thoughts into what they're hearing. Well, this was definitely not something that I'd ever thought of. I want you to go. I'm not worried about your work. I want you to go to college. And I'm like, "What?" I said, "I didn't even finish high school." I said, "I never took an SAT test." I said, "God, you got to get with the program here. You're obviously not talking to somebody else. I must have gotten the mixed channel." So I just ignore it. I'm praying some more, and I just get this really, really strong impression. I want you to get up right now, go to the phone, call the university, and ask for an application. You are going to go to college. And I get up and I go to do what and I thought, okay, well, this must be one of those weird test things. I'm supposed to be tested for my faith, right? That's what they were teaching us. And okay, well, it's never going to happen, but it's going to go through the motions. I'm sure that this has something to do with me learning something. I don't know what. I get up, I go to the phone, and my wife says, "What are you doing?" And I tell her, and she starts laughing. And now anybody who knew me knew that I was a smart aleck. My mother had a wicked tongue that could make a sailor cry, and but I wasn't very smart. I couldn't read. I had to get other people to help me read. I was functionally illiterate. And I told her, and I told her what I felt, and she laughed. She said, and I said, I know. I said, it's ridiculous. This is never going to happen. It's like the Lord's taking, it's saying, hey, look at that monkey here. Let's send the monkey to college. And so I did, and I had to get my wife's help to complete the application, and that's how functionally illiterate I was. And so I had to pick a major. Oh, electrical engineering. What does that guy do? What does that do? It's one of the hardest majors in the world. And I hadn't taken any SAT scores. So I thought, well, I'm not going to have any SATs to give in. I said, this is just an exercise in me. I don't know what's going on. Well, I go through the motions. I'm not telling a soul other than my wife what I'm doing because I'm embarrassed by the fact that I was doing something so ludicrously insane because there was no way I was qualified for college. And oh, by the way, at this point, it's now early August. College starts in a month. It's like a month, 6 weeks away. I said, there's no way. I said, they're already full, their rosters. I said, really have no idea what I was doing it, but I did it anyway. And lo and behold, I got accepted. I was 28 units short of the minimum requirements to get in. They were going to waive that and let me make those units up as I went. And my first thought was, holy cow. I thought college was for smart people. They'll let any idiot in. I thought, there's no way they should have let me in. I said, I said, this must be one of those really bad colleges. It was a state school. Um, so I threw the letter away. The very next day, now mind you, I hadn't said anything. My ex-wife hadn't said anything to anybody. I got an email, or not an email, it was long before email. I got a letter from my father-in-law. He was very concerned that I was going to be able to provide his daughter with a level of income and support that she deserved. He thought that I had gotten a raw deal as a child, given my upbringing, but he said that you have to work for what you want in life. And he said, if you're willing to do, you will have to have a job, but if you're willing to go to school part-time or you go to school, I will help pay for your tuition and books. You'll still have to pay for your rent and your food and stuff like that, but I'll be willing to help you pay for your tuition and books, which at the time was, not that much. It was a state school, but it was certainly affordable. It wasn't like going to Ivy League or anything like that, but it was way more than I had. And I thought, wow, this is the universe telling me they wanted me to make a change. And I said yes. So I went to the trash. I actually went to the dumpster that we'd already taken the trash out. I went to the dumpster. I found our bag. I did the dumpster dive. I had to pull out the letter. And 2 weeks later, I was in college, absolutely bone chilling terrified that I didn't belong. I wasn't as smart as these other kids. They all seemed to know what they were doing. I had no idea. They seemed to understand the lesson plan. It was my first time getting a lesson plan. I was absolutely unprepared, absolutely terrified to my bones. But I felt that this was what I was supposed to do. And this was my chance to change my stars. And that began my transition.
That's incredible. I love really how it was just one thing after the next just
Yeah.
happened to facilitate you to make sure that you started off on this journey into higher education. I just really love that and so appreciate it. And also the compassion of your father-in-law that really touches me, to support you in that way.
I was blown away. No one had ever supported me in anything in my life. And to have somebody come in that didn't really know me that well, offer to provide me with such a gift. Now, all of his daughters had gone to Ivy League schools. He was a very wealthy man. He was not very wealthy, not Elon Musk wealthy, but he was pretty wealthy for the time. And I felt out of place in the family. Most of the other sisters, the my wife's sisters, thought I was a gold digger. Um, um, I was just cute. Um, but it was a chance to change my stars, and I knew that it was that kind of chance doesn't come more than once in a lifetime, and that you take it by the horns, you don't let go, you suffer whatever you have to suffer, you put through whatever you have to put through, and I did. I worked tirelessly. I worked at nights. I went to school during the days. I took 22 to 24 units each semester. I was constantly, I think I got about 4 hours sleep on average a night for about 5 years. I wound up getting super sick toward the end because I wore myself down. But I graduated with multiple degrees. I was on the top of the dean's list. I got a full grad school scholarship. I was accepted to the Harvard MBA program. I couldn't afford Harvard, but to get accepted into their MBA program was an achievement. I got a presidential accommodation because the Federal Reserve basically changed how they were going to create their own models. I got a job at IBM. It was the beginning of a complete radical transformation in my life.